Diamonds are actually much more common than we think, and the only reason why they are rare is because the companies restrict their supply to jack up the prices. What's a fact you know that almost everyone is wrong about? The pyramids weren't actually built by slaves. In fact, the people who worked on the pyramids were some of the best paid workers in the empire. It required especially skilled laborers to cut, transport and set the giant stones just right. Far more skill than was required for farming. Tic-Tacs are not sugar-free. While listed as sugar-free, this is a marketing trick taking advantage of a loophole due to their small size. To be listed as sugar-free, a product must contain no more than 0.5 grams of sugar per serving. Tic-Tacs are approximately 98% sugar, but the serving size is 1 mint, with an average size of only 0.49 grams. Because the overall size is less than the minimum amount, they can say that they are sugar-free. There is not just a fight or flight response, but also a freeze response. The muscles tense and the body goes very still. This explains why some people are paralyzed with fear, and freeze instead of running or fighting back. It is very helpful for camouflage and hiding from predators with poor eyesight. It does not work so well when standing in front of a speeding truck. The myth of Narcissus. Most people think of it as he has fallen in love with himself, missing the distinction and nuance that he falls in love with the image of himself. This is important. If you run into any narcissist, you will notice the image they have of themselves is quite different from who they actually are. Relevant for tax season. It confounds me how many people don't know how marginal tax rates work. It's not a flat percentage of income based on which bracket you're in. It's tiered in steps, where each bracket is taxed individually. Let's review the math. In the tax year 2019, the new tax brackets are as follows. For ease of math, let's assume you are a single, unmarried individual. $0 to $9,699 isn't taxed. $9,700 to $39,700 is taxed at 12%. If you make $39,700 or higher, the total income tax paid in this bracket is $3,572.88. Final numbers get rounded, but we'll get to that. $39,700 to $84,199 is taxed at 22%. Now, just to give you a little comparison point, let's suppose that as a single individual you will make exactly $39,701 in 2019. Most people believe that this entire amount would get taxed at 22%, making you pay $8,734 in income tax. In reality, you only get taxed on those couple dollars that are in the 22% bracket. I'll split the math up down below for formatting purposes. The real calculation. We already showed above that $9,700 to $39,474 is taxed at 12%, so the income tax in that tier is $3,572.88. So $3,572.88 plus $39,701, $39,700, 0.22, equals a whopping $3,573 rounded down to the nearest dollar. In case you missed the math, you only get taxed at the 22% bracket on that single dollar that bumped you over. The insane misunderstanding of this system leads to people turning down raises because they think they're actually losing money by getting bumped into the next tax bracket. Also, if you get a huge refund this year, that's not something to be excited about. You are effectively loaning the government your money at 0%. If you enjoy this method as a sort of forced savings account, it's an incredibly inefficient way of budget. Set up auto withdrawals to a high-interest savings account, or better yet a tax-advantaged retirement account, to automate your savings and you'll never miss the money. Those holes in the corners of your eyes are your tear ducts. However, that does not mean that that is where tears come from. That's where your eyeball juices drain into your nose, which is why your nose runs when you cry and why you're not just constantly leaking tears. You only cry when there are too many tears to drain into your nose. I just want to clarify a few things. Anastasia was produced and published by the now defunct Fox Animation, which means that the rights to the film are now owned by Disney due to their taking control of Fox. But Anastasia was directed by Don Bluth, who used to work at Disney. He actually quit after the production of The Rescuers because he felt that Disney had lost a lot of their light with Walt's death and for allowing the animation's quality to degrade. A major issue of his was that they wouldn't put a lot of work into the mice to give them proper eyes, something you can see in certain scenes such as the close-up of Bernard's face during the pirate cave scene. Also, he may have had issues with the animation director Milt Kahl, extremely toxic due to trying to show himself as superior to the animator of Cruella de Vil and wouldn't let anyone else work on Madame Medusa. So, it's owned by Disney, directed by an ex-Disney animator, worked on by staff who left Disney in an exodus, and isn't a Disney princess film. As an Australian, I was very surprised to find out that dingoes aren't actually native to Australia. In school, they're always talked about being native to Australia. They have been here for a long time, most likely 4,000 years ago, but they're actually an Asian wolf. Most people do believe me when I tell them dingoes aren't native to Australia. It's even weirder because dingoes are one of the most iconic Australian animals alongside kangaroos. Your hair and nails don't actually keep growing after you die. Your body just loses moisture and fluids, making your body dehydrate and shrink up. This gives the illusion that your fingernails and hair appear longer. Water isn't actually conductive. It's the impurities in the water that allows it to conduct electricity. Edit. For those that are commenting that it can conduct electricity, albeit not very well, I am aware. But it conducts so very poorly that it is essentially negligible. So for simplicity's sake, it's easy enough to say it doesn't conduct electricity. While serving on an airfield, I remember telling a non-aviation friend that there was a plane coming in about an hour from then. He said that it was impossible because the tower is closed. I explained to him that flights come in all the time when the towers are closed. Even commercial jets are constantly landing without the tower being open. He absolutely blew up, said I didn't know what I was talking about, and that planes would crash all the time if that were the case. How could planes land without a tower? That just makes no sense. I even got my superior officer on the phone the next day to explain it, and he still wouldn't believe it. I had 3 other people under me explain it to him, and he still wouldn't believe it. I told him, dude, it's really simple to prove, the tower hours are posted. Check the last time a flight lands for the night and I guarantee it will be after that time. He did, it was, and yet he still refused to believe me. The sad fact is, people would probably riot if they found this out because they'd think it was horribly dangerous, but it's been the standard operating procedure for decades now and no one has even noticed. It hasn't caused a single crash. Believe it or not, it's actually safer to come in after hours because of the reduced traffic. This is not something that needs fixing, it's a very logical move. But I'll bet there are even people reading this that won't believe it. Unless you work in aviation, you probably don't know any of this. Picture a hymen. If you're thinking of a sort of sheet or membrane that covers the vagina and is popped by intercourse, you're wrong. It's actually a thin piece of tissue that only partly covers the entrance to your vagina. There are some cases where it does completely cover it. This is known as an imperforate hymen, can cause some not insignificant health issues, and is very rare. It doesn't always hurt when it breaks, it's as likely to be broken by accident long before you have sex as it is to be pristine when you do, and sometimes it just disappears by itself without breaking. Either way, despite the idea that it's some sort of foolproof virginity test, whatever you define virginity as, anyway, it's still a pretty vague concept, it leaves a lot to be desired. This is really specific, but in most anatomy or biomechanics textbooks the ankle joint is classified as a second-class lever with the ball of the foot labeled as the fulcrum. This is incorrect as the system rotates about the ankle joint, not the ball of the foot. Therefore it is a first-class lever, not second. This right here is the hill I will die on. A monsoon isn't rain, it is a seasonal wind. Monsoon winds actually bring droughts at certain times of the year, and rain in other parts. It's a monsoon outside is not a correct thing to say when it's pouring. A heart attack and cardiac arrest are not the same things. Some severe heart attacks can lead to cardiac arrest, however, there are many that experience heart attacks unknowingly and carry on their merry way. Remember that lady who spilled hot coffee on herself and sued McDonald's? The real truth is her grandson was driving and she was the passenger and they were parked. The coffee spilled and she was covered in third-degree burns and McDonald's had their temperature warmer than the other hot coffees other places sell. The lady only wanted McDonald's to pay her medical bill and lower the coffee temperature. If you don't have a will, your spouse doesn't necessarily get your stuff. But, the state doesn't take it all, either. You don't have to pay gift taxes if you make a gift of over $15,000, you just have to file a gift tax return. Revocable trusts don't change the taxation of your estate. Guess what I do for a living, lol? I'm an estate lawyer in the US. Those of you who criticized me for not noting that my comment was only applicable to my own jurisdiction is absolutely correct. I apologize, although I think a few of you went a bit overboard with the insults. This is Reddit, people. Regarding what happens if you die without a will. Here's the general rule in the US. Will govern assets that you own in your individual name and that do not have a beneficiary designation or similar arrangement attached. If you don't have a will, the state of your domicile essentially writes one for you under a law called the intestacy law. Dying without a will is referred to as dying intestate. Intestacy laws vary from state to state and operate by looking at what family members have survived you. In many states, including mine, if you are married and have children, your spouse gets part of the estate, usually half, and the children split the rest. This is an oversimplification. The point is that you need a will. And no, it's not enough to conclude that you own everything in joint names with your spouse and have beneficiary designations on everything. If you and your spouse die together, or your spouse dies and you don't get a chance to make a will before you go, that'll most likely result in an intestacy. Regarding gift tax. That's part of the federal estate and gift tax. There's a large exemption from that tax, currently $11.6 million, that applies to gifts in excess of an annual exclusion, currently $15,000 per donee per year. If you make gifts in excess of that exclusion, you have to report that to the IRS so they can deduct the gift from your exemption when you die. But if you die with less than the applicable exemption amount, you never have to pay any estate/gift tax. States often have their own death taxes too, though, this only applies to the federal tax. Funded revocable trusts avoid probate, which is the process by which the instructions in a will are carried out. The benefit of avoiding that process by use of a revocable trust is that you save the cost of probate, it's more private, and in some cases, the process can go more quickly. But these trusts do not provide creditor protection or save taxes and cost more than wills to set up. I really didn't mean for this to get so much attention, but I hope it was helpful. After living in Slovakia for 7.5 years, I got beyond frustrated when people would tell me that I would catch a cold from simply being in cold weather, or that air conditioning in the summer makes you sick. Or that you treat a cold with antibiotics. Or that sitting on cold concrete will give you hemorrhoids. I tried to refute all of this with actual evidence, but it fell upon deaf ears. I loved my time there, but good Lord, the old health superstitions are alive and well. That fun fact, you eat 8 spiders in your sleep each year. If you even think about it a little bit, it makes no sense. A lot of American homes don't have an abundance of spiders, and they usually just tend to their webs or live in areas without a lot of foot traffic. They usually don't even intentionally crawl into someone's bed because it offers no prey, and spiders only view us as part of the landscape because we're so big. Spiders would also most likely be scared of sleeping people because of the vibrations caused by breathing and/or snoring. A lot of people don't actually sleep with their mouth open, and if they do, they're probably snoring, which again repels spiders. Also, I know not everyone believes this, but apparently, at my school, it's still being taught that blood is blue until it interacts with oxygen. Blood is never blue, it's just a darker red. The reason veins are blue is because of the way light penetrates your skin. Bad vibes are a thing, but they're not what you think. When others feel stressed or scared, they emit a chemical transmitter that everyone in a radius around them perceives unconsciously. If you're close enough, your body will react with a pre-programmed response. Usually, your pupils dilate, heart rate increases, and cortisol, a stress hormone, will spike. You will go into fight or flight response. This is something we adapted to as humans evolved. If a person perceived a threat, say, a tiger nearby, and not everyone could see it, their fear experience had the advantage of being contagious, so to speak. A lot of the time, the people we come in contact with make us feel bad because they're stressed or scared. Our bodies are reacting to them out of our need for survival. People who are constantly anxious have anxiety that is literally contagious. The definition of an introvert. Not all introverts hate people and never want to socialize. Being introverted just means that social interaction is physically and mentally draining. Compared to an extrovert, who gains energy through social interaction. We introverts still like to get out and have a good time and can genuinely enjoy it, it's just going to require some downtime after. Shaving, waxing, plucking or anything of the sorts does not make your hair grow back faster or thicker. It just looks thicker because it is new growth. The only thing that will really change how thick or dense your hair grows is hormones. Despite popular belief, Van Gogh didn't eat yellow paint because he thought it would make him happy, he ate yellow paint because he was depressed and wanted to kill himself. People also think that he painted Starry Night while having a breakdown, but he painted it while in recovery from a previous suicide attempt. The Starry Night showed his hopes for the world when he got out. Most of his paintings were made while he was in recovery because he wasn't allowed in his studio while he was having a breakdown. If you end up in a higher tax bracket, only the income above that bracket gets taxed at the new percentage. It seems that most people thought the Senate of the US vote on convicting the POTUS would be won simply by which side got more votes, but the Constitution states that a vote, in this case, must be a supermajority of 2/3 of the votes to convict. Diamonds are actually much more common than we think, and the only reason why they are rare is because the companies restrict their supply to jack up the prices. That essentially means that companies are scamming us out of our money because they know we really can't resist those sparkly pieces of rock that are actually made of the same material as the graphite points on pencils. Another thing, diamonds are the hardest mineral, but they are also very brittle. They cannot be scratched easily, but they are not very strong. You can easily break a diamond just by smashing it with a hammer. That janitor is a low-class job. I'm a janitor, and let me tell you, we make good money. Amazing benefit. People treat you with so much respect. Comes the holiday, janitor gets a lot of gifts from the people he cleans for. You're like a hero when there is toilet or bathroom trouble. Yeah, we make good money. I make more money than my friend who graduated from university. Not only that, you have good coworkers. Nobody tells you what to do cause you pretty much have a routine. Robbery and burglary are two different crimes. If you come home and find your house has been entered without your consent and property are taken, you haven't been robbed, you've been burglarized. If you're in your house and someone comes in and threatens to harm you if you don't give them your property, whether a weapon is involved or not, whether they forced entry or not, you've been robbed. If you're outside and a person uses force or the threat of use of force to obtain your property, you've been robbed. This form of robbery is also called mugging. Robbery involves the use of force or the threat of the use of force against a victim. If you've been pickpocketed, you haven't been robbed. Old glass panes aren't thicker at the bottom because glass is actually a liquid. While glass is an amorphous solid, somewhere between a solid and a liquid, its atoms move far too slowly for any changes to be visible to our eyes. Average lifespan being around 45 pre-1900 didn't mean your life was halfway over at 23. It was 45 due to incredibly high infant mortality rates. If you made it to 23, you had pretty good odds of making it to 70. You were not old at 40. OCD is not a preference for tidiness. It is an anxiety disorder characterized by obsessive thoughts and compulsive, frequently ritualistic behaviors such as repetition and counting. It can be debilitating because people with this condition may spend hours each day completing their rituals. We gotta stop using this term so lightly, y'all. Crossing the equator doesn't change which direction the water drains or toilets flush. Yes, even the Simpsons got this wrong. The shape of the drain has much more influence than the Coriolis force at that scale. It's bad info, yet it's propagated everywhere and is taught in schools as a fact. Comments like this often end up downvoted because the drains reverse on the other side of the equator myth is so deeply ingrained. Folks think this is just wrong when they read these threads, so see you in the 1, 0, or negatives probably, even though it's accurate. Free Negroes and American Indians also owned slaves during the period of slavery in America, in small and large numbers. The first black man, John Casser, to be recognized and declared a slave by civil court was owned by a black man, free Negro. Indians continued to own slaves for a time after slavery was abolished in America. And that is the rest of the story. Thank you for watching Reddit Space. Please subscribe if you love these Reddit stories.